Hi, everybody. My name is Patrick. Yeah, I work for Yieldify. The good news is I'm not going to be spending this time telling you about Yieldify or what we do. If you do want to find out, come and talk to me afterwards. I'm going to be sticking around for a little while anyway, most of the afternoon. So, yeah, it's quite a big subject, really. So I've been asked to look at how e-commerce is changing and what's the future now. It's quite hard to sort of draw any conclusions here, but my kind of experience is I've worked at I was at Yahoo, then I did some positions at Microsoft, Xbox, then 3 or 4 years over at Criteo doing retargeting advertising, and then I'm now at Yieldify. And so I want to share some thoughts around kind of consumers and technology and what effect that's having. So, I think a good point of reference is how quickly things change. And when I was working at Xbox, I worked on the launch of Xbox 360, and at the time, Microsoft put some time into adding in advertising functionality and the ability for advertisers to be part of the Xbox experience. Now, what's happened is just recently, with the launch of Xbox One, that functionality has now been all but removed, and for whatever corporate reasons that is, that means that there's no longer that opportunity for brands to get into that gaming experience. And I think that's interesting because it shows you how quickly things can change, and it's really difficult to kind of make a call as to where we think the changes are going to come from. So there's kind of an ongoing obsession with data, and if you think about all the things that have happened in digital media over the last 10 years, I would say the big things that have happened are, if you go back 10 years to, it was all about content and brands creating good content. After content, it was all about creative, driven by the ability to make rich media creative. That then meant that things needed to be tracked more, so it was about how rich media can be tracked. And that then led on to tracking, enabling people to be retargeted when they were leaving websites and trying to bring people back. That retargeting then led to massive jumps in RTB technology. Programmatic buying meant that whole part of the business sort of went stratospheric. And now you've got social, which is still really massive in digital, as well as video, which isn't quite as popular yet as TV or search, but you can see that the numbers are rising and that video is becoming an important medium for advertisers. Now, all of this is underpinned by data. Now, whether the overused term is big data, I'm not actually sure how many brands really do use big data. You know, if you're looking at the amount of data that you need to have Hadoop size databases to manage, there aren't that many brands that need that. However, all data, is important, and it's not just really about having it, it's kind of more about what you do with it. So I don't know if you know who Clay Shirky is. He's kind of a writer that looks at the effects that the internet's having on consumers and economics. And the problem might not be that we don't know what to do, we haven't got enough data, it's the fact that we don't know what to do when we have got some data. So what I think is interesting is, what do sort of marketers, or what technology partners do marketers need to work with to achieve this kind of management of data and this curation of data? And it's really, really difficult because you've got big database companies offering you, sort of cloud-based, end-to-end customer experience management, right from top of the funnel awareness right down to retention of customers at the very bottom. And it's really hard to know which company to partner with. So on websites alone, if you use Ghost Street, you can go onto any websites and look at how many tags are actually listed on those websites, and you'll find that it runs right off the page sometimes, and there's many, many, many tags out there on different sites. And so just choosing a partner is really, really challenging. Also think about how much more technology is going to change and how this sort of Internet of Things is going to happen, where any sort of valuable device is going to have a sensor in it, will have an IP address in it, and therefore that's going to mean more data, more managing. And so it's not just about the amount of data, it's all about what that's going to do to people who work in marketing. And the types of people in marketing are going to have to change, and are changing, much more technologically focused people. And I think businesses need to be quite specific around the data that they're using. They need to be exact how they're collecting data, how they analyze it, what they're doing with it, how they curate it, how they manage it, and having the right stuff in meaningful, kind of actionable places. Now that can either be using your own first-party data, or bringing in third-party data and matching those two things to build profiles of audiences that you can then market to. Now, all this stuff I'm talking about is kind of standard stuff, right? So big deal. This is all happening now. And what does that mean for the future? Well, I saw a Kenshu report yesterday morning that said that, it's not this stat, by the way. This stat is, hang on. I saw a Kenshu report this morning that said that actually a third of digital marketing managers didn't have, thought that their bosses didn't know or understand what digital was. So we have got a fair way to go when we talk about big data and all of this stuff and new technologies. You know, the reality might be somewhere behind that. So change has been pretty constant since I've worked in digital, and that's quite a long time now. There's constant shifting between brands, media agencies, affiliate networks, ad tech companies, all sort of pushing each other and driving through kind of innovative technological products to try and increase value and add sort of more value to their retail partners. And we're seeing some brands even move a lot of that in-house. So, Money Supermarket brought all of their search in-house, and brands are increasingly starting to staff up to bring some of this technologically focused ad products in-house. And if you think about it, though, a lot of what we take for granted now is pretty amazing, really. So if you think about in digital advertising, the amount of data that it costs, that it takes in probably 20 or 30 milliseconds to find somebody, bid on an impression in real time, show them the right product on the right website that we think is going to make them click at the right time, showing relevant products that they've just been browsing on. I mean, that's kind of normal now, and as consumers, we don't think that's anything special. Now, if only mobiles, when I was talking about trends before, obviously mobile is something that's massive now. And what's pretty scary is that even though this figure's quite high, and this is changing, I think that the amount of mobile analytics that companies are using, that is happening quite quickly. But if I remember when I first started working at Yahoo, one of the big things and one of the big drivers for all of brand marketers was to say, I want you to build me a microsite that houses all of this cool content that we've got. So everyone went out and bought microsite and built microsites at a substantial cost. And then what you found is all of the advertisers had microsites that no one was going to because no one knew how to get to them. And actually, not that much change, because fast forward to only the last couple of years, and what you're finding is this idea of if they build it, it will come is actually still happening, because you've got companies making apps for people, but actually they don't really know, once someone's downloaded the app, what people are doing in the app, what products they're browsing, what they're buying, what traffic source they've come from, and they're not promoting the apps to get people to go back to them. So there are some challenges, and we're not there yet. We all know that people are multi-screening. You're on TV, you're surfing on your mobile, buying on one channel, browsing on another, collecting at the bricks and mortar, or Collect Plus or whatever it might be. Tech companies, enable you to purchase and return anything anywhere you want to, and shoppers and consumers expect that to happen whenever, wherever you want. So, the consumer expectations have never been higher, and brands and retailers are scrabbling to try and keep up with that. So they're trying to, web rooming their businesses to a massive extent. So next day delivery is being rolled out everywhere, and that's standard. When you go into some shops, staff are being equipped with tablets, FBI-style earpieces. Customers are scanning things with smartphones at the checkout. And if you look at Waitrose, look online at what Waitrose are doing in terms of R&D for next-gen products. Really, really interesting. I saw a guy, I think he was standing here before, doing a presentation about beacons. And what Waitrose are doing is looking at having people with apps at home where you can scan products, create your own smart shopping list. When you go to in-store at Waitrose, that's going to then, through beacon technology, work out that you're that unique customer, start feeding you information into the app, based on what you've been looking at home, and also what you're looking at in the store, what aisle you're in, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's really, really interesting. And that's just one example of a business that I think is doing some interesting stuff in the retail space. But, and I don't wish to sound negative, there are some great things happening, and technology is enabling brands to do some wonderful things. But if you think about customers and how we engage them, we're not putting all those pieces together yet. So it isn't just about technology either. So there's a lot of businesses can do to join themselves up in terms of data, but consumer-led marketing is going to become really, really much more important, and that sort of now more than ever. So what I mean by that is that when people are evaluating what products they're going to buy, there was a McKinsey report came out recently that looked at what sources people use before they make their decisions, and actually what we found is that the majority of them aren't company-led marketing, it's all consumer-led marketing. And so that then becomes quite interesting, because these are the things that people are looking at to inform their purchases, and not necessarily involving company-driven marketing. So it kind of hammers home the fact that brands have got to do over and above what they used to do to engage with consumers in the right way at the right time. So smart companies are moving forward with kind of consumer-driven touch points, word of mouth, internet information sites, and all this data needs to be managed in one place, because the bottom line is that customers trust peers more than they trust companies. And so it's really about trying to understand what the sort of value exchange might be. Now, it's been a bad week for Uber for a number of different reasons, but if you look at their sort of referral marketing scheme, and I don't know if any of you have seen it, it's a credit scheme. So if you refer somebody, if you're a current customer of Uber and you refer somebody in as well, then you get a credit against a future journey, okay? Pretty good, creates loyalty, leverages smart mobile technology, really, really successful, but that can have its pitfalls, and pioneering can have its pitfalls. So what happened in this situation is, one guy posted he sort of broke the system, right? He posted his referral link onto a load of voucher code sites, deal sites, and posted it on Reddit, and it allowed him to clock up $50,000 worth of credits for future cab rides. So didn't work out too well. His account got disabled for breaking the terms of service, but it sort of forces you to look at policing those things. Might be quite difficult, but it forces you to you've got to have some kind of referral strategy in place to make sure it's aligned with your objectives, because unless you're engaging with people in that way and kind of promoting advocacy. I was reading in a Gartner report yesterday that they think this year is going to be a big year for advocacy and for brands to try and work out what they can do. And it's not as simple as you might think, because the sites that people use that they do trust, like TripAdvisor, it's not easy. So TripAdvisor could lose all its credibility if it's awash with marketeers and promotion. So I don't think that's going to happen. What brands need to do is look at how they can create some kind of value exchange with their audience. So this is quite interesting. We're kind of moving toward new technology and what the opportunities are there. But if you think that this stat sort of says that people will be happy to share, information about themselves with brands or with stores, if there's some value exchange. And actually, what's interesting is they say that as long as they remain anonymous. So that's really, really interesting. New technology, is kind of going to shift the way we think, and also how brands can interact with people. So wearable technology is going to become commonplace. The Garmin Vivo Fit, Sony smartwatch, Apple Watch is going to drop quite soon, and so this is going to be quite normal. And what these things do essentially is they allow you to capture, applicable, accurate data about people. So what might the opportunities be? Well, at the moment it's all about health and being positioned as a fitness enhancer, but there is an opportunity here. So Get Elastic was sort of talking about smart marketers might create alliances with brands. So for instance, Foot Locker might do a loyalty scheme whereby if a user meets their sort of fitness goals set on their device, sensors in store could pick that up. When they walk in, it'll communicate with the device or the brand, and then share data with the retailer's app as well. And the other big benefit of wrist wearables, of course, is that it's efficient, swift, and you can easily see, a time when quick notifications on a really, really small screen, happening really, really fast at a checkout, prompting you to, I don't know, scan your fingerprint to checkout. Very, very simple, but I think you'll see a lot more of that happening actually as time goes on. Now, the other thing that is also interesting about the Apple Watch is that you've got haptic technology on there where, haptic technology isn't anything new. So if anyone knows, back to a gaming analogy, those rumble packs where the handheld controller would shake is haptic technology. It creates that feeling of touch. But what the Apple Watch is going to do is they've got haptic technology in that, which is actually going to physically remind you by buzzing and tapping you on the wrist that you've got a message or you've got a notification. Now the reasons that's interesting is, my phone's buzzing now, but I don't know if anyone knows about that sort of phantom, what's it called? Phantom buzzing syndrome or whatever. I don't know what it's going to be called with the Apple Watch, like, I don't know, haunted wrist syndrome or something, I don't know. But there's a lot of noise around human interface technology. So Synaptics are a company that are looking at gaze detection software. So they're looking at they can see what you're looking at on a screen, and they're pairing that with touch sensitivities. And so it won't be too much longer before you can imagine a really immersive shopping experience where you're getting stuff shown to you and offered to you that's based on what you've been looking at on a website. So it's funny because at IAB Engage last month, I put on some Oculus Rift goggles. Has anyone seen them over there on that? There's a stand over there. Hands up who's used them. Okay, just a couple of you. So I'm not plugging their stand, I don't know what they do, but I would urge you to go and have a look at Oculus Rift because Oculus Rift was a company that has pioneered these goggles basically to put on, and when you put them on, it's a really, really immersive 3D experience. Now, what's interesting is Facebook bought Oculus Rift not too long ago, and if you look at the Mark Zuckerberg announcement when he made the acquisition of Oculus Rift, initially it's going to be about gaming, right? That is what Oculus Rift is going to be used for, but the next iterations of Oculus Rift are all about retailing. So really, really exciting. If you go and look at that quite basic demo they've got over there, you will be able to see what you can imagine is going to happen in retail experiences. And so when I was at the IAB Engage event, and I was chatting to a friend of mine who works for one of the big TV networks about Oculus Rift, he said that, they're already trialing virtual reality cameras at football matches, so you can be able to literally put the goggles on at home and feel like you're in the stadium, and it is a very, very, very immersive experience. So virtual reality is going to become something that billions of us is going to become completely normal to billions and billions of people, actually. Now, if you go back to this start of this presentation, think about challenges of data and challenges for the industry, and we're talking about Oculus Rift and all of this exciting stuff that's science fiction but is in fact. What's going to happen to measuring this stuff? So one of the problems still in digital advertising is attribution. So how do you attribute value to someone looking at a banner, then going to a website, then leaving the website, going to Google, doing a search, then going to a voucher code site, and then making a purchase? If we still can't attribute value to the impression that's shown when someone's browsing, then how does all this new stuff fit in? How can it be measured, right? And so I think that's really, really interesting. Now, so I mentioned Nike before when I was working with them at Xbox Live. And, I think the crux of it is there's kind of a balance. So can you measure all of this stuff on new technology, and how will it fit in? The answer is no, you can't measure it, and you won't know how it's worked, and you won't be able to put it into your usual attribution models. But I don't think that's a bad thing, because it's about striking the balance. So I remember having the first conversations with Nike over in Hilversum. They'd seen Xbox Live, they thought it was great, and some of the people in the room were going, well, yeah, but how does this fit in? It's on a TV, but it's a digital proposition. I mean, is it internet? Is it TV? I mean, where does it fit in, and how are we going to measure it? And actually, the marketing director at the time, marketing director of football, said, I don't care how it works. It's got the right feel for me. The right audience, on the right platform, doing the right things. It feels right, and we need to jump in. Now, that's what's interesting, is that it's often about belief and gut feel on some level, and it might not always fit in with what's neat, but the brands that are forward thinking and the companies that are willing to embrace this kind of stuff are the ones that are going to engage with consumers more successfully than the ones that don't. I don't know if anyone saw the ad that won the Cannes Lion, the mobile line this year in Cannes. It was a Nivea Kids ad, so it's really, really clever. It was a print ad that ran in Brazil. On the print ad for Nivea sun cream, the right-hand side of the ad was a tear-off strip. The tear-off strip is actually a wristband. So you tear off the strip, you pair the wristband, you download the app, pair the wristband with the app, put the wristband on your kid on your summer holiday. You're on the beach, and then what you do is you set on the app, and it becomes a tracker of your child, motion tracker. You set a safe distance that you're happy with, and then you let the kid run, you can let your child run around, and you've got, if they run out of the 5 or 10 foot or 15 foot radius, it starts beeping, you can track your child down. Now, really, really smart, really engaging, really, really impressive marketing. How's that work? They don't know. Are they tracking anything? Probably not, but it won all of the awards, and it's great for consumers, and it's great for their brand. So, I think that's really interesting marketing. So bringing it, down more to something more realistic. I've seen the evolution of ad targeting from when I started at Yahoo, when we were just doing the first kind of homepage animations, the first iterations of quite creative homepage marketing. That then moved into generic remarketing on MSN and Yahoo, but really, really basic. You've been to a website, you leave, and it says, hey, go back. That's it, no personalization. But at the time, pretty groundbreaking. Then I saw that move in through massive amounts of, technological improvements meant personalized retargeting then took place. And that's really interesting too. And now, obviously, I'm doing something else, which is trying to keep people on websites. So whether or not whether the ad product is driving people to a website, whether it's trying to get people to go back to a website after they've left, or it's just about trying to keep people on your website, it doesn't really matter, because what it shows you is that ad tech is always progressing and being built by sort of dedicated teams willing to push the boundaries. And as I said before, I think it's the brands and the companies that are willing to, in some instances, take chances and challenge themselves to try new things with their digital strategy. I think they're the people that are going to win out. So I think, so there's a few things. This is two slides, right? So there's big improvements happening in predictive technology at the moment. It's one of the big things that's going to change. And you will all see it in the types of advertising that we get showed. So when you think about really, really personalized stuff to you in e-commerce, it's going to be around, data's a bit of a problem. If you've got good prospecting data, and what I mean by that, as a marketer, you've got your own first-party data matched with good quality, and I'd highlight that good quality third-party data. You've got those two things that allows you to start building out interesting clusters of for targeting. Once you establish a proper multi-channel strategy and a multi-channel experience for your consumers, then really with data, a good omni-channel experience, and really, really good improvements in predictive technology, we're going to have kind of really smart, properly engaging, geolocated advertising to the right people, right time, and all that kind of stuff. But that's where there's value. As long as it adheres to privacy laws, offers people transparency and some kind of value exchange, then I think we're in a much more smarter place. So in preparation for that, it's about getting your data in the right place. From a technological point of view, investing in the right technology is important. You're not going to find, though, in my experience, you're not going to find one company that's going to give you the dashboard that's going to be like a CMO, a CMO nirvana with all these levers you can pull and push to make everything happen at the same time. You won't find one company that can do all of it for you, but you need to start investing time in looking for the right partners. Push your teams internally, employ the right types of people, and also push the third parties that you're using and push those guys to work together. And I think if most companies do those things, I think that's, again, going to drive the quality of marketing that we're putting in front of people digitally. That's it from me. Has anyone got any questions? Okay, thank you. I'm going to stick around for a little while. Bye.